Hello and welcome to the State of Events, where event professionals connect. October is National Women's Small Business Month, and we are devoting the entire month to highlighting women who are killing the game, even if they don't feel like they are. Today we are featuring startup stories. We will discuss the how and why these phenomenal women started their own businesses and all the different elements that come along with entrepreneurship. We'll discuss deciding on a business entity, what their personal experience has been, different challenges, and much more. This is Startup Stories. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the State of Events. I am so excited to talk to you guys today. Thank you so much for your time. I know that we all have busy lives, particularly those of us who are doing homeschooling now. Welcome to being a teacher. I don't know if your degree says that, but it officially says that now. I'm so honored that you guys took time to spend with me today in the midst of all that we're going through. You are still running a business and being entrepreneurs, and you are so inspiring to me, and I couldn't be more grateful for you to spend some time with me. And so we're just going to jump right into today's discussion. I have today 4 amazing ladies: Leslie Jones of Leslie Marie Events. I have a returning guest, always our favorite, Becca Bloom of BB Events. Elizabeth Dantis, owner of Clivabeth Photography, and fashion designer Helen Nitsky of Copacabana Beachwear and custom face masks. Welcome, ladies.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So good. So today we are featuring startup stories, and I'm so excited that I get to actually go straight into storytelling. Becca already knows we can stay on the phone all day just as friends talking about our stories. I love to hear people's stories, and I thought, what better way, National Women's Small Business Month. In case you don't know, October is National Women's Small Business Month, and we are devoting this entire month to highlighting women who are killing the game, even if you don't feel like it. And so I'm so excited to just jump right into your personal stories of how you started your businesses, why entrepreneurship. We're going to get into a little bit of like the difficulties you faced. I want to hear your business entity of choice that you maybe started with and maybe changed later. And then, of course, I would love to hear what you guys are doing now, the different events that you're in. And so I want to start with Leslie. Leslie, can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and your company?
Yeah, first off, Sonia, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with all of you ladies today. But as you mentioned, my company is called Leslie Marie Events, and we started about 6 years ago. And I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't know in what avenue it was going to be in. And so when I went off to college, I was always tasked with planning sorority fundraisers, doing community events, those sorts of things. So I really understood like the importance of organization and how to efficiently, get people of get large groups of people together to accomplish a goal. And so while I was in college, I did a ton of those events. And then I'm from Los Angeles, so I went to college in Arizona. When I moved back to LA, I got a job at a nonprofit and I was planning their community events. And on the side, I was also interning for a wedding planner. And so that's when I really realized that I loved event planning, but definitely loved the wedding planning aspect of it. So I just followed her around literally for 2 years and then started Leslie Marie Events. And we still do community events and some corporate events, but 90% of our business is weddings. So we specialize in luxury weddings. I love that 85%, 90% of our couples are couples of color. So we are based in Los Angeles, and we also have a team in Phoenix. And that's kind of how we got started.
Wow, I did not know you had a team in Phoenix. This is news to me. Congratulations. Come on, scaling and branching out.
Well, I went to school in Arizona. So a lot of friends and friends of friends would call me back and ask me to do weddings and baby showers and those kind of events there. So instead of going back and forth every month like I was doing 2.5 years ago, I just set up a team there, and now I'm able to go less frequently, but still have that connection with the folks there that want to hire me.
Moving on to Becca Bloom. Welcome, Becca. So good to see you again. Can you please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with all of you lovely ladies. I am Becca Bloom. My event planning company is called BB Events. We are based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we serve nonprofits, communities, and socially conscious companies who want to affect positive change. And so we do really meaningful, purposeful events that build education and awareness and dialogue and fundraising. And Leslie, a lot of your background definitely relates to a little bit of my story. I started in the nonprofit field in Los Angeles, in fact. And, I was doing a lot of projects and events within that world, among other tasks that I managed, and one day I woke up and was really feeling this need for change. And I've always been a planner. I love organizing things. I love all the little details that can stress other people out, but I just love it. I just get so much energy around balancing lots of moving parts. And I woke up and said, I want to pursue this new career. I want to be an event planner. And so I started making that transition while still in the nonprofit field. So I moved into another nonprofit where I was an event manager, and then happened to move to the Bay Area soon after that. And it was a great opportunity for me to figure out a whole new path. As we know, the event world is really broad. And so there are a lot of different directions I could have gone. And so that journey really started with a lot of exploring on all of the opportunities here in the Bay Area, informational interviews with people, learning about, the catering world and the hotel world and corporate events. And my goal was always to, as you said, Leslie, being an owner of something. I always felt like I was going to own something and do something on my own. But even before getting there, I knew I wanted real hands-on experience and have some guidance from other leaders and mentors in the community. And so over the years, worked internally at companies, and then contracted with other companies, partnered with other event planners. And last summer was really the launch of BB Events. It came at a perfect time where one of my mentors moved out of the Bay Area. And so it really got me thinking about what I wanted to do next. And, summer was quite quiet last year, which is so odd to even think about, but it was a wonderful opportunity for me to really sit down and really flesh out what BB Events was going to be and the mark that I wanted to make in the event world. And so it's been a really exciting journey, a little over a year later. And now I'm even reinventing BB Events even more, now, of course, being a virtual event planner now, and just really thinking more thoughtfully about the events that I want to do, and how I want to have an impact in my community.
Liz, can you please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes. So I am so excited to be here. Thank you also, Sonia, for having me and my company, Clovabeth Photography. I am a photographer, and I capture weddings, events, as well as family portraits and headshots, amongst other things. I kind of fell into this business, sort of say, because soon after college, in which I have an acting background, like an acting and modeling background, I've always been like a really creative, artsy type of person. And then shortly after I got married in 2012, I started wedding planning. And someone reached out to me and they saw my wedding photos and were like, "Oh, your wedding was so nice. Would you want to do wedding planning?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah. I mean, I planned my own wedding or put together my own wedding." So anyway, long story short, I ended up doing wedding event planning for about 4 years. And that was, made a lot of nice contacts and networking through that. And it was really fun, but it wasn't my own business. And I knew, kind of just like how Leslie and Becca said, that I did want to have something of my own and to have my own business. So we went to a friend's wedding, my husband and I, and we brought our own camera there just so that we could take photos kind of our own group dynamics. So after that wedding was over, we shared the photos of us and our friends or whatever to the couple, and they were like, oh my gosh, your photos look better than our photographer's photos. And so, yeah. So from that, because like their friends saw those photos, people actually started reaching out to us to capture their weddings. So it was totally like something where it was just like, God just put this on us, and, you know, not necessarily asking for this, but just saying like, okay, where is he leading us in this season? So since friends started asking us, we were like, sure, you know, and fortunately for us, that wedding was actually in Jamaica. And then it got featured on the Knot magazine. And it was like our first big real wedding. It was a destination wedding in Jamaica, and it got featured on the Knot. So we were like, well, maybe we should stick with this a little bit, right? So that was about 6.5 years ago, actually like maybe 7 years ago now. So from there, we have just grown as a business.
So awesome. And I have used Clivabeth Photography for a few of our needs, and you guys are some of the greatest in the industry, mainly because you're about relationship first. And so when you're on a photo shoot with you guys, it doesn't feel like I have this like, you know, high-end photographer, like go stand over there, or however, you know, those kinds of photo shoots might go. It's more so like I have professional people who are friends taking my photos, and it just takes down this barrier. And I think to that point, you guys actually capture a little bit more organic pictures that, you know, end up being amazing and are professional, but it was built out of a actual, you know, organic relationship with you all. So thank you for that, you know, genuineness that you bring to your work.
Thank you. And a lot of our clients would, I think, agree the same, is that it does feel very personal because we do create these relationships with our clients, and we do storytelling as we're capturing their photos.
Last but definitely not least, we have the incomparable fashion designer, Ms. Helen Nishke from Copacabana Beachwear and Custom Masks. Can you please tell our listeners a little bit about your company, what you do, and a little bit about your products?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I'm a little bit nervous, but we're going to do this okay. So I am fashion designer, as you say. I am originally from Brazil. That's the accent. And then I've been in fashion industry for a very long time. And the way everything started was very organic too, as the other ladies already share. Being with my mom in Brazil, I grew up, she was sewing, and had a time in our life that she was a sewer, and she was taking care of us at home and doing sewing work. So that's when I started like helping her drawing for her clients. So the clients will come and explain to her what they need, and she sometimes couldn't totally understand. So I will guide her, and that will be very clear for everybody. She's like, oh, I think she has a talent for it. So that's how I got involved in the fashion industry. So Copacabana is something that has been on my heart for a long, long time, especially moving to US. I started before at 2016 when I had my second baby. Was a little bit too much. I got a break, and now I'm coming back like full force. Copacabana is all about what I want to bring is this value of the natural woman, the true woman, the real woman, real body, the who we are. Like that is more than just. I think what got to me and why I love swimming more. I'm a surfer. My life always have been like around the water, the beach. Growing up in Brazil, surfing. But then for me, like I will hear a lot. Like people saying like, Brazilians can wear swimwear because they are all beautiful, but it's not how we feel, and it's not how we think we are. And I don't believe swimming season and like swimsuit seasons should be a nightmare, but a fun should be the time that you're like, yay, swimsuit season. Not like, oh my gosh, it's swimwear season. And I feel like it's a burden, and it's the best place in life is my house. I call home. Like being in the ocean is my home. So it's no reason to be stressed. It's the opposite. So that's why I born Copacabana Beachwear, is to really embrace and empower women. I'm developing my first new swimsuit collection, but I'm also partnering with other artists in Brazil and some other parts in the world with some accessories, and some artists in LA. The whole idea of the company is to be environment conscious, but also community conscious, which it is everything is recyclable, is from eco-friendly materials, but also I want to be focused on give back and how to help grow and bless the community we are in.
So awesome. I think it's amazing that, I don't know if it was today, but one of your recent posts, Helen, you actually have a picture of a woman in a bathing suit and she's sort of hunched over, just maybe that's the way that she's sitting. And you're actually showing the rolls on her belly. And I looked at this picture, I said, she must have got me off camera or unbeknownst to me, because that's exactly what my stomach looks like when I wear a bikini. But it's so true, right? Not everyone has the wonderful six-pack that I'm sure we would all love to achieve one day. But the reality is that the right now is sometimes that you might have a little bit of tire, little tires, little donut rolls going on. And that's a real woman as well.
And it's not a reason to not enjoy the season. It's not a reason to be there self-conscious, like you half enjoying because someone may be seeing this. I gave birth to 2 beautiful children. I should be proud of my body can do, the blessed that it is, not just, oh my gosh, I don't have the six-pack. Like, yeah, I don't. And me, I never have. But you know what?
It's okay. I'm representing for the 6 rolls. How about that? So great. And also, Helen, during this interesting time of 2020, you actually launched another item. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you custom make as well?
Yes, when everything happened. So like I was one of the ones that was let go in the company too. The company completely like closed our department. So I was working as a sweater designer, and they closed the department and everything. So when I was home, I started thinking about Copacabana again, and I want to bring back. And I will see everybody, we need the masks. We need the masks. Like everybody need the masks. And we all were upset. We were like unhappy with the fact that we have to use the plane. Nobody was like, thrilled about it. So I started doing, honestly, it wasn't what I want to do. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. It's too much work. And then came in my mind, like, but you know what? I can create something that people will feel happy about it. Something that can bring this almost like a luxury, like almost something that I would put it on like, oh my gosh, this feels so beautiful. I feel cool. When I fall in love with the art behind, clothes represent us, and we can totally tell how we feel from inside by what you're wearing that day. The days that we don't feel well, for sure, especially as women, we just, let's just put this, whatever, who cares? But when we feel good, we all go for the dress, everything brings together. So I was like, I want to bring happiness in this time. I want to bring the joy of wearing masks. And that's what I start creating, like more fancy masks, and also all organic inside, because I was concerned about the product, how it will feel in your skin, because I had friends that was saying like, it's breaking out my skin. And so I use like organic, like materials inside. It was all I care about it, how I'm going to put it together, if it's breathable. And I always have such a hard time breathing, even with air. So it was like, if I can breathe with this, anybody will be able to. So there's this whole concern about it. And it was a great experience.
I think it's great that everyone has, sort of these amazing stories of how they started up. But I think the reality of starting a business is that it's not always met with joy and with excitement, because there's some concerns, there's some fears, there's some challenge, there's some things that, I've never done this before. And although we all have some great startup stories, I'm sure there was a moment when you were starting to think about starting a business where you were like, oh, this is scary. I've never done this before. Leslie, I'd love to hear a little bit about what were some of the challenges that you initially faced when you decided to go into starting your own business?
I think initially for me, it was obviously some of the administrative stuff feels very, very daunting initially. But I think especially going into an industry, unlike, what Helen does, her products are extremely unique, right? Well, going into an industry like event planning or wedding planning, there's tons of wedding planners. There's tons of event planners. There's ones that, I interned for a bunch. I worked for a bunch. And so I think it was important for me, or what was difficult for me was seeing what my space was in this market. Because especially being in a big city like Los Angeles, where there are lots of different people doing the same thing that you're doing, is a Leslie Marie Events needed? Am I going to start this business, put my heart and soul into getting it started up, and then I have 2 clients a year? So although I might think it's a good idea, although I might think that, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, are other people going to think that too? So I think that was an initial hurdle that I had to get over before any of like the administrative stuff that was difficult, or marketing, or trying to find clients, all of that stuff, just kind of getting out of my own head when it came to starting the business.
And I think to your point about there being sort of you being a small fish in a big pond, obviously those are some concerns when you're from a city, as big as LA. What were some of the things that you identified within yourself, or maybe, the approach that you wanted that was like, this is going to set me up?
Honestly, it was family and friends and clients. So, I had worked with a couple of couples that had started their wedding planning journey elsewhere. And then they came to me because they had gotten extremely frustrated, either working with a planner that didn't listen to them, or trying to do it on their own and just weren't able to navigate the situations as best as they had hoped. And so, when you hear over and over again, like, oh my gosh, this was awesome, or, oh, I couldn't have done this without you, or thank you for helping me do this, then you actually start believing it, right? And then you think, well, if these people couldn't have done it without me, maybe there's a lot more people out there that who can't do it without me either. And so, most things in my life, I can kind of build my own self up. But this, it really did come from like the feedback of family and friends and other clients who really started to support my business early on, and gave me feedback that I didn't really ask for, but that was extremely positive and that was extremely targeted. Like, not just, oh, you did a great job. No, I really appreciate you walking me through this because I didn't understand how this venue contract would have worked without you. And then I say, okay, so I know that I'm good at explaining this, or I know that I'm good at, I have all these different ideas in my head of what the wedding should look like, but I can't figure it out, like how that translates, on a tablescape, or how that translates on a ceremony design. And when they come in the room and they see exactly what they were thinking in their head, and now it's actually laid out. Like, that was like very concrete feedback that I used to kind of build myself up to start my business.
That's so good. And that's so important, that specificity with each client. I mean, we all are client-based, especially Helen with custom designs. I mean, I can just imagine how many back and forths renderings and drawings. And so it's like, that's the one. And it could be 5-6 times. But that's what it is when you're in a service-based industry. You kind of are like, you know what, we'll do it as many times as we need to until we get it right, or at least halfway right. I would imagine, Liz, probably some of the same difficulties in that, there are tons of photographers in Southern California. What did you do to stand out? And then also, what were some of the difficulties you faced in starting a business?
I think one of the biggest advantages that we had as a business is that, so I lead the company, but just a little background for Clivabeth Photography. Clivens is my husband. I'm Elizabeth. So together we're Clivabeth. Ta-da! So people are always like, is that French? What is that? And then, so once I tell them that kind of little insight about our company name, especially wedding couples and families, they're like, oh, wow, this is cute. This is fun. I want to learn more. So one of the advantages that we had starting out, or even now, is that we're a husband and wife team, especially when we capture weddings, when you need 2 photographers or more than 1 photographer. And that we work together so well, like a happily married couple, right? Like that. All marriages are unique, for sure. But all relationships are unique and all clients are unique. So having that connection with the clients really helped to develop that relationship with them. as far as struggles, I think one of the initial struggles that we had were really just getting our name out there. But outside of our personal friendships and referrals and whatnot, is just getting to know strangers, people that are just looking for photographers. And I think even when you start out to even today, you have different marketing companies, especially like with, I don't want to name specifically, but like online marketing companies, wherever people would go to find services, they cost a good amount of money. So it's an investment that we have made into our company through different seasons. But a lot of them do work, but then some of them don't. So I think finding the right marketing tools was a big challenge for us. Which one is going to make, we went to different like wedding conferences, like the expos, I guess I would say, those expos, where we did book clientele, but the investment that you need to make in order to get your, good return on investment, you need to kind of figure out what is the best strategy to market for marketing.
And I would imagine just, knowing all of us who are here today, we didn't necessarily grow up with marketing being so social media driven. Was there a learning curve involved for you with that? Or was it kind of like, it was easy to kind of plug into the social marketing type of approach?
I have a lot of photographer friends, and that's what's really great about, I guess, the photographer and event community is that people really, we support one another. And I know marketing on social media for some of my photographer friends really works for them. I am still struggling with that. Just, it's another job in itself. It really is. And on top of running a business and top of, making sure that the clients that you do have are taken care of and that you're giving them exceptional quality. On top of doing all that, I guess just as an entrepreneur, you have to wear so many hats. And I did really focus in on social media tactics, during maybe a year, 2 years in a season, but I wasn't really getting, I guess, return on it. It's a consistency thing. So I wasn't really getting that much return on it. So I was like, okay, well, let me try other strategies, which were working, such as like, I guess, paying for listings or advertisements in different of those, like, I guess, Google or Yelp or something. Those have worked for our company very well. It does cost a lot more upfront, but you do get the return quicker.
It's interesting because I'm noticing as you all talk about your different service or product, which medium works for who. On our side, event production, the Googles and the Yelps and all of those actually didn't work as much. But I'm noticing as you're talking, perhaps it's because for you, Elizabeth, people are actually able to see the product when they pull up those apps. They're able to see the product of your photography. They can see the pictures. They can, kind of skim through and swipe through social. But for the event planner or the production company, it's a little bit different because you have pictures of your work that you didn't actually create. The design that you see in a photo from my company, which is Cinch Productions, you see a photo of somebody else's work, but I am actually the person who produced the event. So it's very different to whatever you're sort of doing on which medium supports you best. I'm sure, Becca, you have some feedback about that with all that you do with ILEA.
Well, I even want to point out how virtual events now are making it even harder to showcase our work, right? As planners, right? We don't have the photographer there, right? Taking the beautiful shots of the people, right? And the centerpieces, right? And the room that, I personally didn't actually put together, but my strategy, right? And my vision and the work that I brought all the vendors together to do, put that together. So it's been an interesting challenge to capture, what I'm doing now online. How do you do that effectively, right? And even beyond what you see, right? Our skills, Sonia and Leslie, go beyond just what you actually see, right? We think about strategy and logistics, right? And you can't take a photo of those things. So it's, how do you convey those services, right? And those elements that make us unique, right, in terms of putting an event together.
One of the things that I noticed early on, when we started off, we actually did have a product. If you follow a little bit about Cinch's story, we actually did start off with floral design. That was just something that I had done. I loved to do it. And I was like, people keep asking me for this. I need to charge. I need to have a business. But once we transitioned into event production, I did notice that it was sort of this, I had to tell people that we need to have a conversation or a consultation, because they weren't actually able to capture a lot of what they would be getting from us other than logistical things. And so it was out of those initial consultations, it was after those initial phone calls. And I actually even listed it on my website when we first started, that I value talking to people. I value engaging with people, because I really think it's in those relationships, it's in those conversations where you're like, I want to work with this person. I don't know what the heck they do, but I want to work with this person. You know, you mentioned something, Becca. You said earlier when you were talking about your startup story, you said that you wanted to own something, and that excited you. As we talk a little bit about how we got into the nitty gritty of actually starting our companies, what are some of the things that did not excite you and that you were not looking forward to in starting your own business?
Well, it's taking me about a year or so to realize that I wear two different hats. One as an event planner and one as a business owner. So I knew going in that there were going to be, business operations that I needed to be responsible for. It sort of has taken me this time to really wrap my head around it, right? And sort of just dive in. And now I'm realizing all of these elements that are beyond just, working with the client and putting an event together, which I know I'm really good at. That's why I'm in this business and I love it so much. And now I'm realizing, well, there's finances that I have to figure out, right? There's marketing, there's the social media pieces. So there's these responsibilities that I'm starting to realize whether I should own it and do it myself and learn it and do it, or are there ones that I can outsource, And so it's taking me this journey, and it's ever evolving to try to figure out, how to manage all these moving parts. That there's some projects that I've hired someone else to take care of. I knew how important getting my social media, up and running it needed to happen, and it was sitting on my to-do list for far too long, and I realized there's a reason for that, and so I decided that was one of the areas that I was going to outsource. Coming to the realization that I don't need to know everything. I don't need to do everything, which is hard for us, right? We're all, strong women who like to own things, and do things ourselves. So it took some courage to be able to let that go and let some things go and be okay with not being an expert at everything. Part of being a business owner is bringing people in and to your team, right? Who are experts in all of these areas. That's what makes it really strong.
That's such a good point that you bring up, because I've noticed as we have been growing and as we have been scaling that I am actually only truly my best when I'm on a team. I can do some great things by myself and we can get some things done, but the extent that you can go with your team is so much larger and bigger when you have a team. When you're willing to say, you know what, I can't do this, or this is not my strength. And that's actually something that we're learning as we grow this podcast. We're learning, the strength of the team is that not everyone has the same skills and not everyone has the same weaknesses. And that's so important to identify that, because where you end, a teammate picks up and starts. And where they end, you pick up and you start. And that's the beauty of a relationship in general, but it's definitely the beauty of scaling, is identifying that, I don't have all the strengths. And maybe I'm going to develop them. Maybe I'm not meant to have certain strengths, and that's okay. Because I think, if anything, in our community, we've really understood the importance of collaboration. Helen, I wanted to ask you, you have a very creative business in that literally your designs come from your head and your heart. What are some of the initial challenges that you faced when you decided? I know a little bit about your story. What are some of the challenges that you faced when leaving being an employee, working for someone else, and coming over to be a full-on, full-time fashion designer?
For me, it is like Leslie said about like me being unique and everything. And I really hope so. I hope I'm being unique. A lot of things I have to outsource, like the accessories, I can't do all. But one thing, gosh, is social media. Oh, dear Lord, this thing is a monster. And I, forgive my French, strongly dislike. And it's so easy for me. If you see my personal social media, everybody thinks I may like social media. No, I love my kids. They are cute. They are fun. It's so easy. Just to see and post. That's it. That's it. Like, and no struggle. With this social media, like when I decided to go full on, one thing I understand, and I wish I didn't understand, the fact that I am involved in fashion industry for so long, I think sometimes I know too much about fashion industry. And I wish I didn't know. I wish I was more naive and just a dreamer. You know, I think at this point of my life, if I was just a dreamer, it would be perfect, because I would not think like 300 times before I do any click. And this is exhausting. And now I'm like on top of that, homeschooling 2 kids. So I've been learning. One thing I was like super like on board. I had no problem understand that I don't know everything and I don't want to do everything. No problem with that. But then when we started, since I'm creating product, like swimwear in Brazil is amazing. The quality of everything. They make the fabrics, they make everything. So it is a tradition for many, many years. I always want to make that. Also like price and relationships I have with factory and everything. So because I'm creating a product, I need to invest on a product. So and this has to happen. And even though I know how to sew, I have all the skills and everything, it's nearly impossible to be doing one by one swimwear. Like I'm never going to go anywhere. And the machinery is a completely whole other level for a swimwear. And I really don't want to sell any swimwear that's going to leave anybody naked in any point. I don't think it's a good market. So like... I'm kind of being the model sometimes because of this whole pandemic. Like I can't at this moment that I don't have full collection on, hire a model to just kind of do social media. I can't hire someone full on social media if the message is so Brazilian. It's so like it bringing the culture, bringing who I am. And also the message first is for myself. The message of love yourself the way you are. Every time I put a post is talking to me first, before I'm talking to anybody else. So I decided to go through a online training that is all about like create online. And I've been learning social media. And I was so excited about like, okay, I have a budget. I will set aside to pay someone to do social media good. I will pay some ads. I was like super happy about it. The more I learn about social media, the more they advise. If you don't have 10,000 followers yet, don't pay for ads. And I was like, what? But how do I get 10,000 followers if nobody knows my existence?
It's one of those double-edged swords, right? It's like, you need to do this because you need 10,000 followers, but you can't do this until you have what? What? Like, what exactly am I supposed to do? Like, shout it from the top of the roof and just, hello, I'm here. And a lot of things that I've been doing, I feel like when I say like God is using this time to break a lot of things, like one of the things I've been learning a lot too is like emotional health leader. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, like for sure we are a leader, even though we don't think we are so many times. We don't want to take this position, but and like, I feel like what is being amazing to me this journey, I didn't even open my website yet because I didn't have time to finish. So I'm trying to get there. So it's just like, but this process with like this week, I was doing a giveaway. Sorry, ladies, you missed it, but we'll have another one. So and then I was like, I got to do social media. I got to take care of these kids in school. And I was like, what do I do? I start praying. And then came like, text your friends. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bother people. And they're like, text your friends. And I was like, no, and text your friends. I said, okay, I'm texting my friends. And then I started texting everyone. And the amazing response that I being understand is like, seek help on one way and another. Everybody was
so happy. Even my super good friends that is like, we born and raised together. They like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to like, of course I'm going to follow. Of course. So we assume that people know what we're doing, and we assume they know they should be supporting you this way. But the reality is no. If we don't like draw for them and say like, click here, like it doesn't happen. So that is one of the things I've been learning a lot. And like the social media struggle is real.
That's such an interesting point that you bring up, Helen. It's almost like we assume that just because our friends know what we're doing, that they know how to support us. And sometimes we do need to be fed that bit of information from our closest friends. How do I support you? What does it look like in this season, especially if you're a business owner? The question should be for our friends is, in this season, what does it look like supporting you? Is it just a like? Is it just a follow? Is it just to buy your product? Is it just to listen to your podcast? What is the extent of supporting your business? And we should absolutely be starting with our immediate circle and then branch out to our larger circles in which we maybe need some more buy-in, but you already have the buy-in from your mom or your dad or your sister. So get them to support. I think that's one thing I've actually learned through social media is that the biggest cheerleaders are actually those who are in our collaborative circles and our network.
So one of the things that I told my friends this week is like, if you see a small business that you want support, I know we all going through a hard time right now with financially and everything, but is every small business should be like more helped by Instagram, let's say, you need to have 10,000 followers. So I've been advising all my friends and everybody that want to support a small business that is on social media. Sometimes if you constantly just like this business, follow this business, share this business, and always comment in the photos, even an emoji, like make the Instagram and social media understand that you really engaging with people, make them like you think that you are a real thing. So that is a huge help. That's what I've been telling people, like you don't necessarily just need to buy something from me, but if you constantly support this way, is a huge support right now.
That's such a good point that you raise. I wanted to ask you all, as you mentioned, Helen, we're learning about ourselves as an entrepreneur. We're learning about ourselves as a business owner. What are some of the things that, as you've evolved as a business owner, what are some of the things that you like about who you've become? And some of the things that are maybe coming out of you in different seasons that is just like, that lives there. I don't like that part of me. Just as an example, you all probably know this, not as much, Becca, but I love people. I love to, I'm a hugger, I'm a toucher, all those kinds of things. And I love to talk to people. I love to gather their stories. But when it was identified as a business owner and we had a staffing component, I had to do my first sort of stern conversation with an employee. And I'm saying employee because we actually did have an employee model when we first launched. And I had to have that hard conversation. And then eventually I had to actually let someone go. And there was a part of me that I realized that I liked, but I had never used it. And that was the stern, the more confident, the more, this is what happened. This is why you are no longer going to be represented by our company. I'm not sending you out on any more gigs. And this is your final day. That whole conversation was so amazing. I just felt like a burden got lifted off me because it was a portion of me who I had been suppressing because I equated having to have difficult conversations with conflict. And for me, going back to childhood, mental health, right? I'm like, conflict has actually always been viewed as not a healthy thing in my family, instead of identifying that there are great things about healthy conflict and getting into those deep conversations. And so after that, I was like, who we firing next? No, I'm just kidding. But what are some things, and Leslie, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the things that you've identified? Hey, I love this quality about myself. And that lives there. I don't want that.
I think for me, it probably has to do with something that I've learned being a business owner is I've always been a people pleaser, someone who, like you said, like conflict isn't big on my list. Like everyone's getting along, like all of that. And so, having some of those difficult conversations with assistants that I had were initially like extremely tough for me. I think, communicating to clients and just being very real and honest with them sometimes was extremely tough for me. But then you start to see the reward from it. And that has, really let me know that I can be very direct in my conversations with my clients and with the people that work for me. And it's actually extremely beneficial. And I think that that is great, especially working in the luxury market, because there's some times where clients will come to me and say, hey, I want all of this, at my wedding. I want to have smoke. I want to land on a helicopter. I want to have a $10,000 gala la hop dress. But I want to get
exotic animals,
Exactly. But I want to get it while they're having a sale, and I want to do it all for $30,000. And so before, I would kind of like shy away from those conversations and be like, okay, well, maybe we could work this out. And now I'm just like very blunt, and and I do it in a way that I didn't think I could before. I thought that if I was blunt with people, then, it wasn't being kind. But I think that you can just have very real, honest conversations with people so that you meet them where they are. So, hey, you hired me because you like the aesthetics that you saw on social media. You understand what my pricing is, which I'll get to in a second. So you know that the things that you're asking for can't be done with the amount of money that you're asking to spend. So either we can reconfigure this, and if $30,000 is your budget for your wedding, great, we can still do something great, but just understand that you're not going to be able to have all of these other things. And so I think, kind of not shying away from those conversations and like having them initially with clients has really been something that I didn't know that I could do and do it successfully. And then also like on the same page with pricing. And I think that that's huge in the service industry. That's the number one question I get from my mentees. How do you determine how much you're going to charge, right? It's tough because you see somebody that's charging this amount, and then you see someone that's charging this other amount. It seems like they have the same skills. Like, how did they come up with these numbers? And for a long time, like I was definitely undercharging. And then I think I got to a point where, I know the product that I produce. I know I have results. I have people that can vouch for it. So now I feel comfortable saying a number that, based on my experience, based on my connections, based on the amount of time that I'm going to save you, I feel comfortable saying what that number is. And that's something that I couldn't have done before. But it's odd because I was in the nonprofit world and I was actually in fundraising. And so I asked people for $100,000 or $1 million, when I worked at a hospital. And so you would think I could just say, yeah, my rate is $8,000 or my rate is $10,000 or whatever. But it was hard to to actually say those words. But once you, like you said, once you start doing it, it's just like, this is what my price is. Like, this is the conversation that we're having today.
That's definitely something that has been, probably a constant for any business owner. It's just like, and maybe not every business owner, because I think that there are some people that I've learned from who are just like straight out of the gate. They were just like, nope, this is my bottom line. And I'm like, oh, and I think it's very interesting that the first people that I had exposure to were the bottom liners, but it was actually what I needed to learn early on because I wasn't a bottom liner. And now I'm like, I know when to have my bottom line and I know when to wiggle. But had I not been exposed to the bottom liners first out of the gate, I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to actually like livable rates. Right? Liz, same question for you. What are some of the things that you've noticed that you like about yourself and some things that you're like, oh, I don't like that. I need to change that.
Well, I do think I'm a bottom liner. So that's, so I do like that about myself. And it's kind of funny because having my business partner, which is my husband, as we go back and forth with different things, it's, for myself, I just believe in the product so much. And I believe in the value. A part of Clip of Beth Photography, we started off just giving digital photos early on, but now we actually provide products like wall art, albums, and that came with, just a year, 2 years into the business, because we realized like this is a great product to have to clients that they can actually use their photos. You can see their photos and use it as wall art and artwork to pass down for generations. So the company became more like, okay, this is just not for you. I mean, you as a client, but it's for your children, your grandchildren to be passed down. Wedding albums, something that I and my husband that we didn't have for ourselves that I wish I have, like my parents' wedding album. But that wasn't a part of what they did at the time. So giving that to future generations is big for me. So even though I believe in that value of myself, transitioning, I really like how Becca was saying how she pivoted to, this virtual event world and transitioning. So we have a studio. It's actually a part of our residential gallery. So we created an in-home studio in our home. But because of this pandemic now, we don't want anyone in our house, right? It's true, right? So, but what we are doing is something that we are working through, and I'm kind of opening to the idea, is investing in creating an outdoor studio space in our garage, basically. So it is going to be a big investment. So I think that's one of the challenges that I face as a business owner, because I know what has worked for our company to get us to this point, but now making a much larger investment into something else, it's like, whoa, okay, I need to believe in myself enough to say, I am worth this investment into my business. And this investment will bring more clientele and I'll make the return. It's kind of just getting out of that corporate world where you have your steady paycheck, and then being like, okay, I'm just going to throw it, put all my eggs out there, and hopefully they hatch.
In honor of recognizing National Women's Small Business Month. So many of you know who are our guests, but our listeners don't know that we actually had an additional speaker who had her baby, and she was 9 months, seemed like 9.5 months pregnant, and she had her baby. But before, when I was thinking of having her on this episode, she and I had this very interesting conversation in which we were going into a little bit about the differences between men business owners, men entrepreneurs, and women business owners, women entrepreneurs. And we were just talking about all the differences. And one of the differences that we landed on, and that took us into a really, really, like a rabbit hole discussion, was that when you look at our male counterparts, when they go into launching a business, everything is like, I'm going to do this. I can do it. I'm going to get it done. There's no question. And you're not doubting who you are. You're not thinking about your self-image. You're not thinking about all of sort of the, if I can for a moment, we're not thinking about all the women qualities that we have in ourselves. It's like our, am I good enough? Is this going to work? Men don't approach business like that. There's no question of if it's going to work. They just do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And we were kind of going back and forth on why do we as women tend to sometimes circle ourselves out of opportunities? Why do we tend to discredit ourselves before we've even started something? Becca, did you face, and Helen as well, this sort of an open dialogue at this point, do you all face those moments where you're just like, I'm circling myself out of something I haven't even started yet?
Gosh, I thought I was alone. This is exactly how I felt literally the beginning of the beginning of summer last year, when I was like, okay, I think it's time for BB events. Let's do this. What does that look like? And, my hurdle was I felt like I needed to make everything perfect before I launched, right? And launch is in air quotes here, because, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I have to get all the copy ready for my website, and, what's my logo? And, everything has to be in order, right, before I get it out to the world, and my husband kept reminding me, he's like, you are an event planner. You've been an event planner, right? You know how to do these things. Just because you're going to press, go live on your website, you're not changing. There's nothing necessarily different about you, right? So I sort of had to, I listened to that advice and really listened to myself. And I said, this is an always ever changing, right? Just because you put a website up doesn't mean it's permanent, right? You can always go back and change it, but we're always changing ourselves and reinventing. And so it took a lot of courage, right? To be able to at some point say, it's ready. It feels right. It's fine for now. I'm proud of it. Let's do it, right? I can come back to it later, and add things and change things. But yeah, to your point, Sonia, I mean, why are we doubting ourselves? Why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? Right? So if you wait too long, then you're going to miss an opportunity, right? Sometimes you just got to do it, and I think that's definitely one of the challenges I have faced, right? It's making that decision and just going with it. That's one thing I've been working on, right? Being able to be confident in the decisions that I make, and seek out the advice where I can. But at the end of the day, it's me, it's my responsibility.
Helen, I imagine with, not only are there just general risks, but then you risk launching beachwear.
And then, like I said, that I got the support of my friends. And then this morning I had to just, like I said, I'm calling out this podcast is not for me today. My friend she tried to be sweet, but she sent something saying, I has this girl that is doing swimwear right here in my city in Brazil. And what she does, she bring all these and you can try on and then just send back to her whatever you don't want. But she comes to your house, wait for you to try on and go back and do this. And I was like, this is just not doable. She's like, look how nice and how sweet what she does. And because swimwear is so hard to just buy online and everything. And I was like, thanks for the reminding. That's never crossed my mind. It's just like, especially like being such a fit specialist that I am. I'm like super huge and fit. And I want to work with more curvy women, real women. I'm not going to size 0 type of girl. So it's even harder to challenge. And because I didn't launch yet, so I don't even have that feedback yet. So it's that thing that is terrifying every day. Like when Leslie said, like, Helen, your product is unique and everything. It's like, is it? It's just like, it's that thing that they constantly doubt, they constantly fear, they constantly like, and then I have to be constantly researching, see what's going on. And then that researching like kills me every day almost because like, see, I knew I'm not a good designer, just forget it. But like that thing that you just have to remind yourself, like, why are you comparing to something that is no comparison, like remind that like you've been doing this for so long and you know what you're doing. You just like doubting and I think the reason why women is this, because it's so true. Like my husband has no problem saying like, no, it's going to work. And sometimes it's kind of, I feel a little bit jealous a little bit. Like, how do you know? Like why, how come I'm doing this for so long, and I don't know? It was funny because when you first asked the question, like, what do you like, what do you dislike? It's like, I love that I know this, how I am good at negotiating with vendors and talk with vendors. No, I can't do this. It's okay. If you can do it, it's fine. Like, it's so fast and so like, I love that part. But I don't like this part of like, don't truly believe and like, kind of like having this down, like, why? Like that part is not fun.
Self-doubt is no fun. Liz, I saw that you wanted to mention something.
I was going to say, I think what Helen said about the social media, I think one of the struggles also with social media and business owners that could be is also just the self-promotion. Like if you have any doubt, it's very hard to self-promote yourself. And I could do, 3 or 4 photo shoots or portrait sessions a week and not post anything on social media just because I'm like, well, I got the job. I mean, I'm getting the job, and it's like, I know I would say not all my clients are on, a lot of my clients are not on social media. And it's tough because that's how it works for some people. It doesn't work necessarily all the time because you have to believe in yourself. And I'm talking to myself here a lot too, because it's like to self-promote your business. And for some reason, like even how Helen was saying, like, hey, self-promoting my family. I'm so proud of my family and I can, post on social media, whatever, all day. But when I'm promoting my business, which is also like another baby of mine, I have to kind of handle it with that care too, that it's like, I have to have that kind of same love as I do for my family, as I do for my baby business.
That's such a good point. I sort of had to tell myself that myself and my business is another client, right? We all take such good care of our clients and spend so much time. And I feel like we're, at least for me, sometimes not as afraid, right, to like offer advice or like get things done for my clients. But then when it comes to me, I have this self-doubt, right? And I've realized that I have to treat myself as a project that I'm working on, right? And prioritize what I'm doing, right? And, put myself at the top and be okay with that, right? We offer this marketing advice to our clients. Let's do it ourselves, right? And be okay with that.
So true. I wanted to, and you actually bring up a great segue for us, because I kind of want to just, as we wrap here, I kind of want to ask you guys, and this is just cross dialogue, feel free to, anybody jump in, but we do wear many hats. We have moms on the call. We are on the recording. We have, single women who probably have like, financial and career goals you want to get to. And then you obviously, some are wives. How do you possibly manage growing a business or developing a product while you wear all of the hats? What are just some, if you can, maybe give our listeners, what are just some like practical things that you've realized that you have to do in order to make this thing work?
I think for me, it was all about, so I am single. I'm not married. I don't have children. And for me, it was still difficult to carve out time to start a business, because my commitment to my 9-to-5 was so heavy at the time. My commitment to my friendships, my commitment to the other businesses that I had were, I had a huge commitment to all of these other things. But something that has really, really worked for me is there's two like really practical things that I do. And I still do this today. I block out time on my schedule, like on my calendar. So at first I was like a list person, which I still really do like lists, but that wasn't working for me, because I think it was Becca that said, things that you don't want to do, or things that don't excite you as much, or things that you feel like are a little bit more of a struggle to do, keep getting pushed to the to-do list for the next day, and then the next month, and then the next year. So I physically block out time on my calendar each day or whatever is going on, and will say, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., I'm working on, building my website, or, early on, these were the things that I was putting. So from 11 to 3, I'm working on this. From, 10 to whatever, just literally putting those things on my calendar and not rescheduling them. So it was like a client appointment for me. It was like a doctor's appointment for me. It was like dinner reservations with my girlfriend. Like, this is unmovable. And then something else that I learned from a woman that kind of mentors me from afar, but she does something called 10 before 10. So the night before, she writes down, and people, a lot of other people do this too, but the night before, she writes down a list of 10 things that she has to accomplish by 10 a.m. the next morning. And that has been super helpful for me, because it lets me get some of those things out of the way that I kind of said before that I don't necessarily want to do, but they are a priority. Get those things done 10 a.m. before I even, get into the other things of my day that, if I check an email, I'm not going to be able to get to those 10 things, right? So let me get to these 10 things before I check an email, before I open up Instagram, before I check my text messages, get those knocked out of the way. And then I'm able to proceed with the rest of my day and whatever else comes up. And those things were super helpful for me for starting a business, expanding my business, and also just like with self-care as being a business owner, because although I'm single and I don't have children, like, it's stressful. So like, I'll put facial on my calendar and I'm not moving it. Like, me time, meditation time, it's on my calendar and it doesn't get moved.
Oh my gosh. Look at the single person speaking to the mom and the wife. I love it.
Yeah, for me, like, it's definitely is a trick that we found a long time ago. I think not so long ago, but like after the second kids, everything felt so chaotic. And I want to go back to have a gym routine and those kind of things when we start doing. And what's been helping me so much is when we look to our calendars and say, hey, we have 5 a.m. as a slot. That's the time. We like, but I never been a like so early person. I normally like used to be like more later on. And then with kids, it's like, that's what it is. We start shifting like in 15 minutes every day until we get to the point. So we try to do like 5:30 every morning. Then I have my morning routine, which is very important to me as a mom, as a wife and everything. Make sure I exercise every day. I have devotional time. I have time quiet to myself before my day starts. And the days that if I don't do this, I may sometimes don't get the 10 before 9, because the 9 is the school time. But I try to do the morning routine is very important. And also I set alarms for the kids too, not just for the school and everything. Is like the time that they will be able to watch some screen or this and that. They know their time. If the alarm didn't go off, they don't ask about anything, and that way create a routine for them too, and they don't crave you or that time, like when it's going to happen. Like every day, that time you have 20 minutes for this, blah, blah, you know it's coming. You have the alarm to start, the alarm to end, but done, deal. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me about it. Like, you know that, right?
Liz, how about you? I know you, girlfriend. You got a lot going on.
I think something that's been really helpful for me in this season is I've been starting my day with 3 M's, which is meditation, movement, and mindfulness. And if I have 3 minutes, I'm going to do those 3 minutes. And if I have, 30 minutes, I'll do whatever I can. But even if it's just meditation, is just breathing in and out, even, reading my Bible, meditating on the word, and then movement, just doing maybe like a quick yoga pose or stretching for a few minutes, something like that, just to get my body moving. And mindfulness is, I do affirmations that really help me in helping remove, let me put it in a positive aspect. The affirmations help me uplift myself, right? Uplift myself, and just saying something like, I am loved, I am creative, and just repeating that to myself a few times. And because I really learned that I really need to watch the way that I talk to myself, that way I talk to my business, the way I talk to strangers. Hey, in this political season, the way you talk to people, okay, how you talk to people really can show a lot of things. Another thing that I've been doing it has really helped me is I have an intention board. And it's so simple. It's just a dry erase board. And I do have some other fancier stuff that like all these different journals that I could use. But when it's too much for me, it overwhelms me. So I needed to keep it very simple. It's just a plain dry erase board. And I do it for myself and my kids. My kids, they do it now too. Well, they'll write, my oldest is 6, and he'll write his intentions, like, clean up toys or something. And I'll write my intentions for the day. And that way, when I can actually see it and it's just like in the kitchen, and I can check it off as I go throughout it, and give myself the flexibility to kind of just go wherever I can just check it off. Okay, recorded the podcast today, check.
Becca, I always, in the short time that I've known you, I've always pinned you as a very balanced person. So I know you have some tangibles.
Oh, well, that's such an honor for you to feel that way. I'm always trying to figure out how to be more balanced, right? I feel like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And especially now, right? Some weeks are better than others. Some months are better than others. But a couple of the things that I have realized I stick to, and that's, having my me time in the mornings. Like I work out almost every day, and I need to do that, right? I don't schedule meetings before 10 a.m. That's just really what I try to do, unless it's, super important or there's only that time, for clients or partners. But making sure I have that me time and I stick to it, because that really helps me start my day. I feel when I don't do it, I feel off, right? I feel lost. And so having that me time, and also setting those boundaries, right? So it's not just about the start time, but it's also about the end time. So, you can sit there on your laptop as business owners, right? We don't have anyone telling us, it's time to go, time to close the doors, turn off the lights, and so, we have to set those boundaries for ourselves. And I'm getting better at it. And one thing I realized is creating a separate space for where I do my business. And I'm excited actually for a new project of getting our second bedroom into a study for me so that I can have this separation, so that my laptop isn't sitting right there next to the couch and I can just open it up, anytime. Because just like any other business, a brick and mortar, it has an open and a close time. So, we certainly can do that for ourselves.
I think that end time, that's so huge. Thank you for that, because I think that is actually like a life hack for anyone in any industry. Like, do you have an end time? We always have the start time. I got to start my day at this time. But when does your day end? And then what does that end actually look like? Because some ending for some people is different, right? Oh, as long as I'm not responding to emails, it's the end of my day. But are you reading articles that have to do with work? Because that's technically work. Right.
And on your phone, sending yourself right, adding things to your calendar, right?
That's so good. That's so good. Thank you guys for this. One of the things that I always do on these episodes is I always want to leave our listeners with just a bit of a wisdom nugget from our speakers. So as we close here, do any of you just have, in addition to these, of course, wonderful tangibles that you've given all of us, do any of you have just like a bit of wisdom? Again, this is National Women's Small Business Month. Do you have any bit of wisdom that is like really what grounds you as your foundation that you can leave some of our listeners with?
I would say for me, my statement for this year is to do things afraid. So I have stepped out on a new business venture. I've also we're expanding and doing some products for Leslie Marie Events. And when I think about it, and if I'm just going to show you guys this, but if you look in my bedroom right now, I have boxes of all the stuff that I've ordered that has come through that can fit nowhere else in my house. And, it's daunting. And if these are all things that I've been wanting to do for years, and I just haven't done them. So this year, my thing, even pre-COVID, was I'm going to do things afraid. So just walking through whatever I said that I wanted to do, even if I'm scared shitless to do it. Thankfully, some of the things that the other women have said that they do to build themselves up or to prioritize themselves are things that are a part of my daily routine: meditation, setting an intention and things like that. And those things tend to help ease some of that fear. But even if I'm scared, I'm going to do it. And I think Sonia said it earlier. If you're 6 months into it and it doesn't work out, oh well, right? I tried it, and I can move on, or maybe I can tweak it in some kind of way. But I don't want to be I know that the way that my life is set up right now is not the way my life is going to be forever. So I understand that I have time to do things now because I don't have I don't ever want children, but I don't have the commitment of a marriage or, having to take care of other people, because it really is just me. And I know that my life won't always be set up like that. So now that I have the time to do it, I'm just going to do it. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. I'll try something else. But I don't want to say, 20 years from now, I have this idea and I didn't do it. Or, 2 years from now, I have this idea and I see somebody else doing it.
And Leslie, what is it that you're doing on the corner of La Brea and Sentinel this year?
So my sister and I partnered to open up the first wine bar in the city of Inglewood. So we're just super excited because my sister has a background in, she's an attorney, but she loves wine. So she's traveled around the world to try wines in different regions. And then, of course, I have the event planning background. So the full name of our business is 1010 Wine and Events. And it's called 1010 because our address is 1010 La Brea. And then wine, because that's what we're serving, wine bar, and then events, because hopefully we'll be able to do some small events there. And it's a place that feels welcoming. But, you know, I've had a service-based business for, you know, almost 6 years. So to actually switch over to, you know, having a brick and mortar and having products that can expire, and working on hiring employees that just aren't on a contract basis feels very, very daunting. But this is something that my sister and I had this idea a long time ago. We started putting the wheels in motion about a year and a half ago. And then COVID happened. So I felt like, well, maybe we weren't supposed to be doing that. But all of the positive feedback that we've received, over the last couple of months, it's like, this is our lane. And we're just going to push through. So we go into meetings with the city of Inglewood and talk about all of these things. And half of it goes over my head. But then I walk out of the room and I'm like, okay, explain to me what just happened. But we're just going to keep going. So that's something that I'm super excited about. And that, you know, it's coming up in the next couple months.
So excited for you, Leslie. And don't forget, you have myself as a resource.
Yeah.
We had employee models out the gate. And so I'm going to be sending you some staff when you're ready from the service industry. So we've got a lot of meetings ahead of us. Liz, I know you have some golden nuggets, girlfriend. Come on.
Man, Leslie just gave so much good stuff right now. So good. That is something that has been on my mind, Leslie. And I was mapping my social media posts last night, or just thinking about it, about being scared and brave, you know, being scared and brave. And the way that you put it, do things afraid. That's exactly what I like God has been telling me in the past week, being scared and brave. Like, it's okay to be both. So it's just awesome when things align like that, and having this conversation with you all.
I have my new tattoo, by the way, Leslie. Do things afraid. I am absolutely getting that. I don't even like tattoos. I don't even want another one. They hurt. But that has got to be somewhere. Please put it on a wall art, something. That is so good. Do things afraid.
One of the things, I guess, my wisdom for women starting out their business, or anyone starting out their business, I think one of the biggest things, and even from this conversation, is just to do one thing a day, at least one thing a day, to work towards your business. And for myself, I know that when I can get really grand, huge ideas, and then I get these huge, grand, amazing ideas, and then I'm just like, well, this is going to be way too much. I'm overwhelmed. And then it just falls back. But I realized through this journey of life, if I just do at least one thing a day, it brings me a step closer to my goal.
Liz, I'm just thinking back on just a couple months ago, how I felt stuck. I felt very stuck with the long list of things I knew I needed to do. I attended this wonderful entrepreneurship summit, left with all of these great resources and tools and ideas. And then they were just sitting there on paper, and I was like, okay, now I got to get started. Now I got to actually do these things on these lists. And so I love the advice about doing just one little thing a day. And that's really where it started for me in getting unstuck this year, was just pick something on that list and just do it. Just start it. It doesn't have to be linear, right? I didn't have to start from number 1 on that list, right? I started with whatever it was, number 5 on that list. And that just really helped me just get going, right? Get the juices flowing, get myself unstuck from where I was. And from that point, that's when I realized all these moments, right? I was like, okay, social media, I'm not in a position to do it. Let me hire someone to do it. Great, check that off my list. And then I moved on to the next one. And it helped me just get moving, right? And I feel like we're all, we have this like one way of thinking and one way of doing that. One thing has to follow the next, but that's not necessarily true, right? So that is definitely one piece of advice.
I have walked away with 5 quotes that either need to be on a t-shirt or a piece of wall art, because these are so amazing. Ladies, thank you so much for your contribution to today. This is such an important month for women who are either considering being a business owner or who have been or who are struggling with if they should still continue on, specifically in what we face today in our world and society. I've talked to many entrepreneur who are just kind of second guessing if this was really what they were supposed to do. And I think by hearing what you had to contribute today, it's either giving people their next step, or it's letting people know, you know what, I can have a perspective shift, and that's okay too. Quickly, give us your handle or your website so that people know how to get in contact with you. Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram at Leslie Marie Events. Our website is www.lesliemarieevents.com. If you care to learn about the wine bar, follow us at 1010 Wine and Events, and our website is 1010wine.com. And actually on our wine website, we're doing weekly giveaways. So last week we gave out a bottle of wine. This week we're giving out some of our apparel. So every week until we open, we're going to be giving stuff away. So that's my motivation to get going. So I don't have to keep giving out free wine, but follow up and take advantage of it.
Cliva Beth Photography, our Instagram, social media, Facebook, website is just Cliva Beth Photography. So it's CLIVABETH photography. My personal Instagram, which is a public account as well, is Elizabeth Dantis. So I post on there as well as, for lots of fun stuff. And yeah, connect with us there.
You can find BB Events on Instagram at bbevents_biz. That's BIZ. And our website is bbevents.biz.
Copacabana, you can find on Instagram as Copacabana Beachwear. And then the website is also copacabana-bw.com.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. And we'll catch you on next month's The State of Events podcast. You've been listening to The State of Events, where event professionals connect. For more episodes, you can find us on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, and Podbean. To engage with us on social media, you can find us at _State of Events. Also, we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to sponsor an upcoming episode, please send us an email to thestateofevents@gmail.com. Thanks so much for joining. Let's blossom together.